If you wish, friend Visakha, go to the Blessed One and ask him about the meaning of this. As the Blessed One explains it to you, you should remember it. Then the lay follower, having delighted and rejoiced in the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna's words, rose from his seat, and after paying homage to her, keeping her on his right, he went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and told the Blessed One his entire conversation with the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna. When he'd finished speaking, the Blessed One told him, "The Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna is wise, Visakha. The Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna has great wisdom. If you had asked me the meaning of this, I would have explained it to you in the same way that the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna has explained it. Such is its meaning, and so you should remember it." That is what the Blessed One said. The lay follower Visakha was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So there's a lot to this particular sutta, and it's quite interesting. A lot of women really like it because monks don't spend much time praising bhikkhunis. But they were an important part of the teaching. Monks are kind of chauvinistic, and they are raised to believe that the rules, the Vinaya, states that in order to ordain a monk, or a bhikkhuni, it takes 5 monks and 5 bhikkhunis. And in Sri Lanka, the bhikkhuni order died out about 1,000 years ago. So they have this idea that you can't ordain women bhikkhunis. And in Burma and Thailand, they're very adamant about that. There was a woman that was ordained as a bhikkhuni. She went to Burma, got thrown in jail, and her robes ripped off of her. That's how adamant they are. But Khetri Dhammananda and I had some long discussions about this, and he was one of the major teachers from Sri Lanka. He was really very, very popular. And from my point of view, monks have to be able to talk to people about their problems, but women are very shy, and they think that they can't talk to monks. So that's cutting off half the population. I don't agree with that. So I'm very much interested in setting up a bhikkhuni order. Now there are other parts of the Vinaya that say that monks can ordain bhikkhunis even if there's only just 5 monks. It takes a sangha to do it, and that means 5 monks. And one of those has to be the preceptor. What happened a few years ago was there were some Chinese bhikkhunis that came to Sri Lanka, and they were able to ordain. Now the reason that they were able to ordain was because when the order of the bhikkhuni was still strong in Sri Lanka, Chinese women went over and they ordained with the Theravada the monks and bhikkhunis. They went back to China, but they kept the tradition alive. So when they came back to Sri Lanka and there was no women bhikkhunis, they said it doesn't matter because we're from this tradition. That's how we got ordained, and we kept the tradition going. Which is just an excuse. I mean, there are instances of women being ordained in Yugoslavia, which was Buddhist for quite a while, just with 5 monks. And hopefully you get enough interest going that you start to get more and more bhikkhunis, and then you can have it revert back to the other way of doing it. And the rules for monks and the rules for bhikkhunis are different. Some of them are very much the same, exactly the same, and some of them are not. A monk, when he becomes a fully ordained monk, is supposed to spend 5 years with his preceptor. Now, I'm your preceptor, but you're only a samanera. If you were to ordain as a monk, you would have to stay with me for 5 years. And in that 5 years, you get not only to see what monk life is, you get to learn all of the necessary things about the Vinaya and how to act. The bhikkhunis only have to stay with their preceptor for 3 years, which I don't agree with. I rather think that they should stay with 5 years. And to be a preceptor, you have to have at least 10 range retreats. So, this year is, for me, is going to be 30. So there's no problem with that. But there are so few monks in this country, it's difficult. You got to go to where they are, and you have to set the whole thing up, and it takes a lot of effort. If I were to ordain someone as a bhikkhu, we would have to go to Springfield, Illinois, because there's a Burmese temple there that has 5 monks. And they can help with all the arrangements and that sort of thing. And that would be the closest place that I would be able to be the preceptor. In St. Louis, there is a Theravada temple there, but it's Laotian, and their ideas and ways of doing things I don't really agree with very much, because their Vinaya is not as good as it could be. So I wouldn't go there to ordain, and they would think that, well, now you're a Laotian monk. When you come and you ordain as an American monk. Why? Because I don't care what country you're from, it doesn't matter. You are ordaining in this country, and the only reason I would accept somebody is if they were serious about living the life of a monk and practicing meditation. By the end of 5 years of spending time with me, you would know how to teach. There wouldn't be any question in your mind. You would know the rules of the monk. Some of the rules are they're real easy to follow. Some of the rules are more difficult. And there are 4 rules that if you break those rules, one of those rules, you are no longer a monk. It's called parachika. There's 13 that are called sangha disesa. And if you break one of the rules there, then you have to go to where there's 20 monks, and you have to confess, and they get to question you about all the reasons why you broke that rule, and it's a rather humbling experience to have to go through that. There, I think it's 73, if I'm not mistaken, Pacheta rules, and they're pretty major, but if you confess it to a senior monk, then you get purified. Taking alcohol. If you took some, a Pacheta rule is broken. So then you have to go confess it to another monk. There's a lot of different rules that are very similar to that. When I was in Burma, we did a confession every day just in case we broke a rule. And you really feel better. And when you confess, you broke a rule, you know you broke it, then you can say you told somebody something that wasn't true. Okay, you have a guilty feeling. And with that guilty feeling comes bad meditation for the day. So we did it every morning in case we did say something that was a mistake, but we purified it every morning so we didn't have it affecting our meditation in the wrong way. So there's 89 rules, 89? I don't remember the numbers. Anyway, that are about eating. You can't look at another person's plate to see what they're eating and have lust come up in your mind. That's breaking a rule. It's a dukkata. You don't have to worry about that. Putting too much rice in your mouth at one time so that your cheeks bulge out, that's breaking one of the dukkata rules. Wearing wooden sandals is breaking a dukkata rule. Covering your toes with closed like wearing shoes, covering your toes like that, that's breaking a rule. During the time of the Buddha, and they still do it somewhat in India today, I think, they had pieces of wood and they had these little things coming down and they had a knob on it, and it didn't have any strap. So the only way you could wear those was you put it in between your big toe and the next toe, and you had to squeeze, and that caused a lot of pain if you walk very far. So it was against the rule to do that. Or Eating out of a copper bowl. Copper, when it mixes with food, turns out to be poisonous. Too much copper is not good for you. So, don't do that. Oh, another one is if I'm walking on the grass right beside a path and you are walking on the path, if I'm senior, I cannot give you a Dhamma talk while we're walking. I'm supposed to be on the path. You're supposed to be on. One of the rules I truly love was we can't give a Dhamma talk to someone that's holding a knife. How reasonable. So there's a lot of rules that are very easy to follow. The thing with the amount of rice you can put in your mouth at one time, they said a peacock egg is the biggest quantity of rice you can put in your mouth. You know how big a peacock egg is? It's more than an extra large regular hen egg. And I couldn't put that much in my mouth if I tried. I can't put a regular egg, that much rice in my mouth without having my cheeks bulge out. Another thing, during the time of the Buddha, they didn't have eating utensils, so they all ate with their hands. And in India, some of the ascetics were very good at, they wind up licking their hands clean. And that's a break in the rule. That's really offensive when you see somebody doing that. So there's a lot of rules that you get to follow, but you don't really think about them. You just wouldn't do them anyway. So I don't know why I got off on that tangent, but there you go. Yeah.
What are the four rules that...
Having sexual activity, stealing, encouraging other people to die, and telling other people about having an attainment when you don't. So you don't ever ask me about what attainments I have. I'm not going to tell you. Doesn't matter. It matters to me. It doesn't matter to you. So the thing with encouraging other people to die is really tricky. Now, I know a monk that he thought that abortion was a good idea. Well, that's breaking that rule. Just by saying, I think it's okay for you to have an abortion. No. We, as monks, stay away from that kind of conversation. I had a real interesting thing happen while I was in Malaysia. There was a lady that I think she had, I don't remember, O positive blood, and her husband had AB negative blood. So when she got pregnant, the baby was going to be deformed. And she came and asked me what she should do about it. And being the courageous monk that I am, I said, go talk to that monk about it. And then they were talking about having another child. And it could have actually killed her. because the blood was so non-compatible. So I suggested that maybe they consider not doing that. But that's all I can do. At the time, it was Upandita. I told her, go talk to Upandita about this. Well, in his own way, I'm sure he did it correctly. Upandita was probably the toughest meditation teacher I've ever run across. And he's the one that told me I was being lazy when I was taking 4 hours sleep. And I was a pretty new monk. I'd only been a monk for a year and a half or 2 years, so anything somebody like that said to me, I took it to heart and did it as best I could. I've since learned that's not great advice. And I got down to about 60 kilos, which is like skin and bone. I could touch my backbone by doing that. Not anymore. But as soon as I left Burma, I started gaining weight and got up to, well, it was about 190 pounds. And that's what I stayed at for the whole time I was, and I was skinny. I was thin like you are. But when I came to this country, I started eating the food and it just started piling on. Well, it's called oils. Yeah, I read an article after I started gaining weight about the oiling of America. And there's 5 or 6 kinds of oils that are really horrific for the body and make you gain weight. And also margarine. I don't know if you noticed, but we have real butter here. We don't have margarine because it's so bad for you. We try to make it as healthy as we can. Anyway.